Okay, in this video we are going to be pretty much solving quadratics by completing the square. The very first thing that we're going to do is find perfect square trinomials. So this is your warm-up. So if you want to pause my video and see if you can find the perfect squares, if you can find the perfect square trinomials in here and factor these out, see what you come up with. So go ahead and pause the video and we'll see what we do. Okay, so if you could see, 16 is a perfect square. So what times what is 16? It's 4 and 4. And then 4 plus 4 is also 8. So how this works is you only have to do one, you don't have to do two binomials or a binomial. You can just do x plus 4 squared, because 4 times 4 is 16 and 4 plus 4 is 8. So it's x plus 4 and you have two of those, so it's squared. This one down here, 1 times 1 is 1 and 1 plus 1 is 2, so it's going to be x plus 1 squared. Okay, I'm going to do this one out just because I want to make sure that you guys understand what I mean, so you can see this if you accidentally do it. Alright, 81. So what two numbers multiplied together give you 81? So you have 1 times 81. So you can see that. Okay, and then we have 3 times 27, and then you have 9 times 9. So if you think about this, so 9 times 9 is your multiply to get to 81, and if you add it together, you get 18. So we have to just figure out the signs. A negative times a negative is a positive, and a negative plus another negative is going to be still a negative. So this one is going to be x minus 9, and we have two of those, so it's squared. So again, this 25, so 1 times 25, and we have 5 times 5. Okay, so 5 times 5 is 25, and 5 plus 5 is 10. So in this case, it's going to be a negative times a negative is a positive, and a negative plus another negative is going to be another negative. So it's going to be x minus 5 squared. Alright, so we're going to use that same concept when we are going to go down here, and then also when we're going to be completing the square. So the next set of directions, it says factor the perfect square trinomial, then solve the equation by square roots. So you're going to factor, then square roots. Remember, a positive number always has two square roots, so you must solve for both cases. So we're going to look for the perfect square trinomial. Okay, so we're going to do this side right here, so 4 and 4. And so what two numbers multiply together give you 4, and it's going to be 2 times 2, and then 2 plus 2 is also 4. So my perfect square trinomial is going to be x plus 2 squared. And what we're going to do now is, again, it's squared, so the opposite or inverse of the squared term is going to be, equals 25, is going to take the square root of it. So we're going to take the square root of this side and the square root of this side. So that means that we're going to get x, so it takes away this squared term, so this is now gone. So now I'm going to get left with x plus 2 equals, and this gets positive and a negative, so plus minus 5. Okay, so then if I solve here, because it's going to be, I want to get x all by itself, so if I subtract 2, so now I'm left with x equals negative 2 plus or minus 5. Alright, so now I have two different equations. Okay, so I have, let me see if I can do this really small. I have an x minus equals negative 2 plus 5, and I have an x equals negative 2 minus 5. Okay, so I have two different equations. So negative 2 plus 5 is going to give us 3. So x equals 3. There's one solution. And then negative 2 minus 5 is going to give us x equals 7. And there's my other solution. So now my solution, negative 7. Now my solution is going to be x is equal to, braces, negative 7, comma, 3. Alright, so this is how you write this. You don't have to write these each as coordinates. You just write it just like that, and that's as good as you're going to get. 2 is just like this one, so let's just do number 3. Okay, so 49 is a perfect square, so I'm going to perfect square this one trinomial right here. So what two numbers multiply to get to 49? 7 and 7, and then 7 and 7 are equal to 14 as well. So you have to watch your signs. So I'm going to do x, and a negative times a negative is a positive, and a negative plus another negative is a bigger negative, or a smaller negative really. So x minus 7 squared equals 4. Okay, so x squared, so you're really going to take the square root of this sign, square root of this sign. So what I'm left with, again, it takes away this squared term, so x minus 7 equals plus or minus 4. Oh my gosh, 2. Okay, add 7 to both sides. Alright, so I'm left with x, this is gone, equals 7 plus or minus 2. There's my two equations. So I have an x equals 7 plus 2, and I have an x equals 7 minus 2. So 7 plus 2 is going to give me x equals 9. It's one solution. 7 minus 2, x equals 5. Here's my other solution. So x is equal to 5, comma, 9. Okay, so that's how you do that one. So now we're going to go with learning how to complete the square. So let's read our directions. When you do not have a perfect square trinomial, so it means this is not a perfect square, okay, and you can't do the same thing here, you can create one. This process is called completing the square. Follow the steps below to follow the equation, below to solve the equation by completing the square. So what you're going to do is you're going to rewrite as x squared plus bx equals c. So now we want this term on the outside or to the left of the equal sign. So let's do that one first. So 8x plus 8x squared plus 8x plus 7. So I want this 7 needs to go over here. Again, you need to do inverse operations. So subtract 7, and I'm left with x squared plus 8x equals negative 7. Number 2, take half of b, your b term, which is right here, square it, then add this to both sides. Okay. I'm just going to do this over here. So I'm going to do this little bit over here. So my b is going to be 8. Okay. So it's really going to be 4 squared, which is going to be 16. All right. So I'm going to bring 16 back in. So really what I have is x squared plus 8x plus 16, so there's your 16, equals negative 7 plus 16. Alright, so I brought it back in. And then I'm going to factor the perfect square. So 16 is a perfect square, and it's 4 times 4. So 4 times 4 equals 16. 4 plus 4 equals 8. So I have x plus 4 squared equals, and then a negative 7 plus 16 is going to give you 9. So equals 9. Take the square root of both sides. I'm left with x plus 4 equals plus or minus 3. You want x all by itself. Subtract 4, subtract 4. Okay, so now you're left with x equals negative 4 plus or minus 3. Okay, so here's our two equations. So we have one equation right here, which is x equals negative 4 plus 3. And we have another equation, which is right here, x equals negative 4 minus 3. Alright, so negative 4 plus 3 is going to give you negative 1. And negative 4 minus 3 is going to give you negative 7. Okay, so then your answer is going to be x is equal to, braces, negative 7, negative 1. All right, let's see if we can follow these steps right here. So I'm going to turn the page, and I'm actually going to kind of simplify these steps over here so I don't forget. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite my equation. Okay, so I'm just going to put rewrite just to kind of remind me of how I want it. So my first one is going to be rewrite. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do here. So number 5. So I'm going to subtract 27 on each side, and I'm left with x squared minus 12x equals negative 27. All right, and then it says that you need to, I'm going to take half of b, so I'm going to put half of b. I need to square it, and I'm going to add to both sides. Add both sides. Again, I'm just making little notes so I don't forget what to do. So I'm going to do that right now. So again, off to the side. This is my b term right here. So half of b is going to be negative 6 squared. Negative 6 times negative 6 is going to be 36. All right, that's what I'm adding to both sides. So I'm on x squared minus 12x plus 36 equals negative 27 plus 36. Again, there's that 36 that we just did. Okay, third step, you need to factor, and this is into, factor, and this is your perfect trinomial because 36 is a perfect square. So what times what is 36? It's 6 times 6, and 6 plus 6 is also 12. So now we have to fix our signs. So I'm going to do x, negative times a negative is a positive, and a negative plus a negative is a smaller negative. So x minus 6 squared equals negative 27 plus 36 is going to give you 9. Take the square root. Okay, when you take the square root, this 2 is gone, and you're left with just x minus 6 equals square root of 9 is going to give you plus or minus 3. Add 6, add 6. And notice I'm not adding 6 to my 3. It stays out front. Okay, so now I'm going to get x equals 6 plus or minus 3. 2 equations. So I'm on x equals 6 plus 3. Another x equals 6 minus 3. 6 plus 3 is going to give you 9. X equals 9. 6 minus 3, x equals 3. Okay, so my answer is going to be x is equal to 3, 9. All right. We'll do one more for good measure. Let's do 8. Okay, so I'm going to put it, forgot my fourth step over here. Take the square roots. Take square roots of both sides. All right, now I have my little notes over there. All right, let's see if I can do this. I want to get it into my equation. So it's ax. So again, I don't have this last c term. It needs to go away. So I just want it to be, I'm going to, add 50 and 50. All right, so now I'm left with x squared plus 2x equals 50 minus 2 is going to be 48. All right, half of b. So half of 2 is 1. 1 squared equals 1. Okay, so this is what I'm going to add to both sides. So I'm x squared plus 2x plus 1 equals 48 plus 1. Take your perfect square. All right, 1 times 1 is 1, and 1 plus 1 is 2. So x plus 1 squared equals 48 plus 1 is 49. Take the square root. Okay, so now I've already factored. I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Okay, have x, this is gone, x plus 1 equals positive or negative, and the square root of 49 is 7. Subtract 1. Alright, I'm left with x equals negative 1 plus or minus 7. Two equations. So I have x equals negative 1 plus 7, and then I have x equals negative 1 minus 7. So negative 1 plus 7 is going to give you 6. And negative 1 minus 7 is going to give you x equals negative 8. Alright, so your answer is x is going to be negative 8, 6. Okay. Irrational solution. So it's a little bit like our last one, except for we're just completing the square. So we're taking, or we're simplifying our radical here. Let's do number 9. X squared minus 2x minus 4. Okay, you're going to do the same exact thing as our rules up here. So I'm going to add 4. So x squared minus 2x equals 4. Take my b term, half it, which is going to be negative 1. So negative 1 squared. Negative 1 times negative 1 is a positive 1. That's what I'm going to add to both sides. So I have x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals 4 plus 1. Okay, factor. 1 times 1 is 1, and then 1 plus 1 is negative 2, but I have a negative right here, so it's going to be negative 1. So negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1, and negative 1 plus a negative 1 is negative 2. So I have negative 1, and then x minus 1 squared equals 5. Square root. Okay, this is gone, so I'm left with x minus 1 equals positive plus or minus. And notice the 5, if you try to factor 5 into my prime numbers, it's just going to be 1 and 5. So it's going to stay the square root of 5. I can't do anything with that. I can't simplify. This is what makes it irrational. Because remember, irrational is always the non-perfect square roots. Because it's going to be a decimal, and it's going to go on and on forever, and it's not going to repeat. Alright, so I'm going to add 1 to both sides. So I'm left with x is equal to 1 plus or minus the square root of 5. Okay, and this is exactly how I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to go any further with it. This is my answer right here. Alright, let's do number 10. Start the same way. Get it into my rewrite it into my form. So I'm going to subtract 46. X squared plus 16x equals negative 46. Not a perfect square yet, but I'm going to make it there. Okay, so I'm going to take half of b. So is 8 squared, which is going to give me 64. So I'm going to add to both sides. X squared plus 16x plus 64 equals negative 46 plus 64. Okay, I'm going to factor it now. Okay, what times what is 64? You should be saying 8. Okay, so 8 times 8 is 64. 8 plus 8 is 16. So x plus 8 squared equals, and then negative 46 plus 64 is going to give you 18. Square root. So this is gone. X plus 8 equals plus or minus 18. Alright, let's see if we can go over here. I'm just going to do this with a pen. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this part over here. Alright, so we have the square root of 18. We're going to factor this out to my greatest common, or my prime numbers, prime factorization. What times 1 is 18? Let's do 2 times what? Oh my gosh, is that a brain part? 2 times 9. 2 is prime. 9 is not, so go ahead and do 3 times 3. Again, you're looking for the doubles, and I have a double 3. Okay, so I have a double 3, so the 3 comes out front. What's left on the square root is a 2. So 3 times the square root of 2. All right. So I have plus or minus 18. Let me see, square root of 18, sorry. So now I have subtract 8, and what do we just do? So I have x equals negative 8 plus or minus, and you're going to bring this in, 3 square root of 2. Okay, so this is what you're bringing in here. And that's what I'm going to leave it. Ooh. Getting a little crazy, minus 8, minus 8, okay. So leave it just like this. Okay, I think I don't need to do anymore. I think 11 is going to be exactly the same, and so is 12. So I'm done doing my notes with you. I will post homework, and then again, if you have questions, you definitely need to come see me during office hours tomorrow, and which is Wednesday, and then Thursday we'll have class. You need to ask questions, and then I will try to give you extra office hours if you need it on Thursday, which is going to be a little bit later. So just make sure you get all your stuff done by Monday, and I will see you guys later. Bye-bye. Oh yeah, happy Easter, by the way, and happy Passover. Goodbye.